disappointing set of results, as you say, and I'm a former local government secretary, so my heart goes out to all of the hard-working Conservative councillors, and particularly those councils like Westminster and Wandsworth that were doing to be the seismic step forward for the Labour Party that you would expect 2 years out from a general election if they were hoping to win power. To give you the stats, the Labour Party have actually gone backwards, at the moment at least, in the Midlands and the North, which is the battleground really where general elections are won and lost.
Remember when Keir Starmer promised to be different from Boris Johnson? 9 months later, Labour has lost 35 council seats and seen a 9.1% drop in vote share, the fastest collapse of public support for any new government in modern British history. But it's what's happening behind closed doors that's truly shocking. Sources reveal Starmer erupting in rage at staff as his carefully constructed image crumbles. This isn't just another politician breaking promises. It's the complete unraveling of a political strategy that fooled millions. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Remember the jubilant scenes when Keir Starmer swept into Downing Street just 9 months ago? The champagne corks were popping, and promises of a new era of competent, thoughtful governance filled the air. Fast forward to today, and you'd hardly recognize the same political landscape. The mask of competence has slipped, revealing something far more concerning underneath. The speed of Labour's fall from grace has been nothing short of astonishing. Since July 2024, the party that was meant to restore sanity to British politics has hemorrhaged an eye-watering 35 council seats across the country. Even more alarming is the collapse in their vote share, down by 9.1% in aggregate terms. Political analysts who've watched governments come and go for decades are genuinely stunned by the rapidity of this decline.
What does it say for the government? What does it say for Boris Johnson?
Well, I wouldn't read too much into it, in the sense that it's hard to extrapolate from local elections to the general election in local council elections, but sadly didn't win the 2001 election.
Yeah.
What I think the government is doing and needs to do in the months ahead is concentrate singularly what local councillors, particularly councillors doing a really good job, feel obviously very concerned that their good work is going to be harmed by what's happening in national politics. And
So what exactly went wrong? The betrayal began with elderly voters, those who remembered when Labour actually stood for working people. Starmer's government callously eliminated the winter fuel payment for over 10 million pensioners, stripping away the £300 benefit that many elderly Britons relied on to survive the cold months. This wasn't some minor policy adjustment. It was a direct attack on the most vulnerable in society. The consequences were immediate and devastating. NHS England's data tells a heartbreaking story. 94,600 more A and E visits by over 65s this winter compared to last year. These aren't just numbers. They represent elderly people suffering from cold-related illnesses because they couldn't afford to heat their homes properly. So much for the caring face of Labour. But Starmer wasn't finished. Despite campaigning on promises of economic relief for ordinary families, his government unleashed a punishing £40 billion tax increase that has further squeezed working people already struggling with rising costs. The hypocrisy is breathtaking, promising one thing on the campaign trail, then doing precisely the opposite once safely in power.
the events that you've seen in Number 10, the questions around Sir Keir Starmer in Durham, and the many very serious allegations in the House of Commons around sexism and misogyny. And I wouldn't overstate the concern about the Prime Minister in particular. And I just draw your attention back to the fact that in the key areas of the country where the Prime Minister made so much progress, which suggests that, of course, there's concern about a sitting government in midterm. Of course, there's concern about the economy because we're in a very serious international situation.
The third betrayal came on immigration, where Starmer had positioned himself as the tough but fair alternative to conservative chaos. Instead, illegal migration has reached record levels under his watch, making a mockery of his campaign promises about secure borders and controlled immigration. Key voting blocs, who took him at his word, feel utterly betrayed. What we're witnessing isn't simply the usual midterm blues that afflict most governments. This is the complete collapse of the carefully crafted image that Starmer spent years building. The sensible, forensic former prosecutor who would bring competence back to government. What if the composed, methodical Keir Starmer we see on television is merely a performance? The carefully constructed image of the calm, rational former prosecutor is crumbling behind closed doors. Insiders now reveal scenes of table-thumping fury when presented with Reform UK's unprecedented 9% surge in the polls, the largest increase of any political party. This explosive temper, hidden from public view, emerges when confronted with the uncomfortable reality that his political maneuvers are falling flat with an increasingly disillusioned electorate. The rise of Reform UK represents more than just a temporary blip in British politics. They've established themselves as a legitimate political force, consistently finishing second in 6 out of 9 recent council by-elections. This is no longer a fringe movement, but a serious challenge to Labour's authority, one that has reportedly left Starmer visibly shaken during private strategy meetings. While Conservative gains of 22 seats have contributed to the sense of panic within Labour ranks, it's Reform's remarkable ascendancy that truly terrifies Starmer's inner circle. Current polling places Labour at a dismal 24%, down another point, while Reform has surged ahead to 27%. This dramatic reversal of fortunes has transformed the political landscape in ways few analysts predicted. Starmer's attempts to reassert his authority, what some have dubbed his Falklands moment, have failed spectacularly. Rather than stemming the tide of declining support, his leadership has only accelerated Labour's downward trajectory. When confronted with these uncomfortable facts, the Prime Minister's carefully maintained facade reportedly disintegrates into displays of rage that have left staff members stunned. The internal dissent within Labour grows louder with each passing week. Backbenchers, once jubilant about their election victory, now openly express fears about their political futures. The whispers of discontent have transformed into concerned conversations in parliamentary corridors as MPs watch their party's support evaporate at an alarming rate. Starmer's strategy of announcing new initiatives to distract from policy failures has proven ineffective. These attempts at misdirection lack substance and fail to address the fundamental concerns driving voters away. The British public, having endured years of political spin, has developed a remarkable ability to distinguish between meaningful action and empty rhetoric. The remarkable shift in public sentiment, from relief at Conservative defeat to widespread disillusionment with Labour in just 9 months, speaks to something profound about modern British politics. Voters no longer grant new governments the traditional honeymoon period, but instead demand immediate evidence of promises kept. What we're witnessing with Starmer isn't just another chapter in British political disappointment, it's a fundamental crisis of leadership philosophy. His recent acknowledgement of declining poll numbers and the need to reconnect with voters reveals something far more troubling: a leader who believed style could permanently triumph over substance. The British electorate, weathered by decades of broken political promises, has developed an almost preternatural ability to detect insincerity. They've seen this movie before: the grand campaign promises, the post-election U-turns, the desperate spin, and they're no longer buying tickets to the show. Starmer now stands at a crossroads that will define his legacy. Will he double down on the failing strategy of media management and carefully crafted soundbites? Or will he finally recognize that today's voters demand authentic leadership that addresses their genuine concerns rather than merely managing them? His acknowledgement of the winter fuel payment backlash suggests he may be beginning to understand, but whether this realization has come too late remains to be seen.